Shalom! We are about to compare the USA, the United States of America, and the separate states within America to Israelite tribes. Israelite tribes. In the Bible, we find the tribes numbered in groups of 12. That there were 12 Israelite tribes. The Bible maintains a quorum of 12, whereas if you actually count up the tribes, you find 13. So the Bible maintains a quorum, the number 12, by counting the two separate tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh as the one tribe of Joseph, because Joseph was their father, or by counting them as separate tribes, but eliminating the tribe of Levi, because Levi was spread throughout the other tribes, scattered throughout the other tribes. At all events, technically speaking, there were 13 tribes. And these tribes divided into two different sections. In the south there was the kingdom of Judah. The kingdom of Judah comprised the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, most of Levi, and represented minorities of all of the other tribes. So that amongst the Jewish people, because the Jewish people came from that section, or most of them did, or the core element amongst them did, they came from that section, and so technically the Jewish people have within them elements from all of the tribes. But Judah is predominant. After Judah you also have Benjamin and then Levi. Whereas the northern tribes, the northern section of Israel, were 10 tribes. So 10 tribes that are separated from the southern tribes. The 10 tribes were taken into exile. They were exiled and lost consciousness of their ancestry. That is what the Bible tells us, that's what history tells us, archaeological findings tells us, everything tells us. And they migrated, they moved through various historical processes, different stages. They all moved, they all migrated, eventually converging in Western Europe. They helped create nations of Western Europe, and they gave something of their national character to those nations. Britain, the British Isles were especially important in this, but all the other nations in the West also had much to contribute, and also the homes of separate tribes, because the tribes tended to stay together. And after that they founded the other countries. They founded Canada, they founded Australia, they founded New Zealand, they founded South Africa, and they founded the USA. Now we are concerned with the USA at present. The USA is the most powerful nation in the world. And the USA is possibly the best, relatively speaking, nation as a world power that has ever existed. And the USA has a big heart. Due to the big heart of America, it becomes what it has. The American dollar flows, it enables commerce, it enables progress, and it emanates from the American character of generosity, of giving, of not impeding the natural progress and natural initiative, the innate impulse of a person to better himself, to do what he can. This is reflected in the American dollar. This is what has made the American dollar great. America owes much of its greatness not only to the geographical expressions, the geographical features that have enabled it to become a great nation, but also to its attitude, which has given the world the American dollar and an international currency that works. And other nations have tried to replace it and are jealous of it and would like to have done the same thing, but each of them has some type of psychological blockage that does not allow them to express themselves in the same way. And so we have to thank the American dollar as an expression of America's character, and through the dollar, America is what it is. America can afford to buy much, much more than it produces, because the dollar will fund it, and other nations will use the dollar as part of their currency, as legitimate currency, or even as replacements for their own currency, in effect enriching the American citizens. So this is one thing. Apart from that, I'm not here to praise America or to push any capitalist or other ideology. We are here to do some bit of biblical study in conventional terms, comparing contemporary affairs to conventional reality. So we find we Israelites in the West, and from the West they created the USA and other places. And they created the USA, and Britain especially was important in the beginning. Britain and Ireland, the British Isles were especially important in the in creating the USA. And they helped give rise and to establish, to instill something in their character in the USA, so that all the others who came after them also adopted to themselves. So we had these 50 states of America. We have 50 states of America today, but originally there were 13 states. These 13 states had a revolution against Britain, and they created their own country and with their constitution. And from that, the USA grew to what it is. Now, these 13 states of the USA, according to our studies, are parallel to the 13 original tribes. We're not saying that everyone in those states, or even everyone in America, is descended from Israelites. A good portion of the population of the USA, according to our studies, is descended from ancient Hebrews, and they have helped make the America what it is, and they have given Hebraic character to the USA on the whole. And they have also, in each and every state, contributed something of their own. And within these areas, it seems that descendants of Israelite tribes tended to congregate, and that different tribes somehow or other became dominant in different areas. And we can attribute, we can allocate different American tribes, we can allocate the various American states to different Israelite tribes, and that is what we have done. And we found, as we said, we found that there were 13 original states. These 13 original states are parallel the 13 original tribes, and from them came the other 37 tribes, making 50. So we find amongst these original 13 colonies something that is expressed in the additional colonies that came to them. And what we are going to do, we're going to tentatively identify these 13 colonies with Israelite tribes, and later on we will show how different sections of the USA also share the tribal attributes of the original Israelite, of the original colonies, also share the tribal attributes of the original colonies. 13 colonies have been divided into New England. New England is the states of New Hampshire and Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. And then the middle section, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware. The southern section, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. And those are the 13 original states. We identify New Hampshire with Reuben, Massachusetts with the Manasseh, Rhode Island with the tribe of Asher, Connecticut with Naphtali, New York with the tribe of Benjamin, New Jersey with the tribe of Judah, Pennsylvania with Gad, Delaware with Dan, Maryland with Levi, Virginia with Ephraim, North Carolina with the tribe of Issachar, South Carolina with Simeon, and Georgia with Zebulun. And each of these different states with their tribal allocations show similarities to the Israelite tribe in question. For instance, Delaware, we identify Delaware. Delaware is a small state. There's less than about 1 million people in Delaware. We identify Delaware with Dan, the tribe of Dan. The name Dan in Hebrew connotes judgment. The Talmud, Pesachim 4a, describes a certain person who was always wanting to go to court, always wanting to sue people, take people to court, to go up before the judge. And they say that this person was that way inclined with his penchant for litigation because he was descended from Dan. And so too we find something similar in the state of Delaware. Delaware enables companies from outside the state to register within the state. And it makes it simple. It simplifies the process and doesn't take large sums of money for this service. About 60% of the companies listed in the New York Stock Exchange, that is a good portion of all the companies in America, are registered in Delaware. This provides an income in Delaware to numerous lawyers and legal courts and everything connected with them, the secretaries, the assistants, the clerks, the computer people, the maintenance, transport services, and so on. Also the fees, the legal fees they pay, that also helps with the state income, and everything connected with that also helps the state get by. This includes the infrastructure, financial and legal infrastructure that helps insurance companies, financial services, health services, people who maintain the building, taxis, shops, food, everything. You have a lot of it derives its income, derives its sustenance to legal services that Delaware provides. In some way or other, a good portion of the income of people in Delaware may be traced back ultimately to courts, litigation, and the judgmental process. And Delaware, therefore, is giving expression to an attribute of Dan. Comparing the ancient Israelite tribes in the land of Israel, as it were in the land of Israel, two places in the USA, we find a similarity. We find similar configurations as existed in ancient times. For instance, we find Simeon in the south, South Carolina. So too, in the time of Israel, Simeon was in the south. Besides South Carolina, we find Georgia. Georgia we identify actually with Zebulun, which in Israelite times was more to the north, but nevertheless there are parallels. Georgia links up with North Carolina, whom we identify with Issachar. Zebulun and Issachar nation times that joined each other and were associated with each other. The name Georgia as a state was named after King George of England, and George means farmer. Zebulun was named after a bait, Zebulun, meaning a fertile field, so their connotations are similar. All of the tribes that we mentioned in similar configurations one to another. Dan in the time of Israel, ancient Israel, was in two sections. One was in the south coast, and the other one was in the north. Dan in the south, neighbor Benjamin, Judah, and Ephraim. So too, we have North Carolina, Virginia, and Delaware, relatively close to each other. Ancient Israel, Judah, and Benjamin were together in the same state. So too we find New Jersey, whom we identify with Judah, and New York, close together and adjacent to Maryland, whom we identify with Levi. And those three tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, were together in the land of Israel. With the other tribes, one point of interest, you should note that we may identify Massachusetts with the Manasseh. Massachusetts was important in the history of America. It was big, like Manasseh was big. It attributes similar to those of Manasseh. In the time of Israel, the tribe of Manasseh was actually divided into two. One portion was to the west of the Jordan, another portion was to the east. A good section of Manasseh to the east was taken up by the area of Gilead. Gilead also included a portion of Manasseh on the west side. At all events, Gilead was somewhat separate from the rest of Manasseh. It had different characteristics. It had a different character altogether. Even though it was still part of Manasseh, Gilead was more wild, its inhabitants were more homicidal, more excitable, and they were different altogether. And so we find a parallel to this in America, that we identify Massachusetts with a Manasseh, and we have another section whom we also identify with Manasseh and Appalachians. The Appalachians are to the west of the original 13 tribes, and they have a different character altogether, but they too relate to Manasseh, and the Appalachians, the area of Appalachia, maybe is parallel to the area of Gilead in ancient Israel. God willing, in future talks we will continue with this. We'll go into more detail on certain points, but this is interesting. It is perhaps somewhat controversial, but is of interest, and it proves itself. You see different points, even though they're small things in themselves, their cumulative effect, they all build up into one big picture, which is quite impressive and quite informative. Two books that we found of interest, or found of value in the studies. We're still going through them, There's one David Hackett Fisher, I'll be on seed, 4 British folkways in America, USA. This was sent to us by Clifford Smith of Belfast. Clifford Smith is an old friend of ours, and he sent us this book to us some time ago, and we used it, and we're going to use it again. Another work we found of interest is Colin Woodard, American Nations, a history of the 11 rival regional cultures in North America. And this book also has much of value, and in some ways his findings help our own and parallel our own, even though he has different explanations for the differences that we find. The differences are often very similar and help prove our point. Thank you, may the Lord God of Israel bless you.